Today we are talking about the very famous story David and Goliath. Here we see how one child can be an onslaught of a man through the sheer power of God by his side. He then fumbles at the end of his life, of course, because he lets his wrath get the better of him after sleeping with an already married woman and sending her husband off to die in battle. But thankfully we're only talking about the first half of the story before his hubris gets the better of him. So without further ado, let's begin. The Philistines gathered their forces for war and got ready at the town of Soka in Judah. They made camp at Ephes Dammim between Soka and Azekah. Saul, king of Israel, and the Israelites assembled and camped in the valley of Elah and made their battle line to meet the Philistines. Each side was on a hill with a valley in between. Goliath of Gath came out of the Philistine camp, sporting a monstrous build and combined stature. He stood alone, clad in armor and weapons of bronze, acting as if he was a whole army. He invoked terror into the hearts of the Israelites. His shield bearer then went and stood in front of him. Goliath stood upon the hill and shouted to the Israelites,
"Why do you come out and line up for battle? Am I not a Philistine? And are you not servants of Saul? Choose a man and have him come down to me. If he is able to fight and kill me, we will become your subjects. But if I overcome him and kill him, you will become our subjects and serve us."
He then realized he needed another voice line, so he then said,
"This day I defy the armies of Israel. Give me a man and let us fight each other."
After dropping that hard of a line, Saul and the Israelites were solemnly afraid. Now quickly, I have to explain how David gets here. Jesse of Bethlehem had 8 sons, and during Saul's time of ruling, Jesse was old. Jesse's 3 oldest sons, Eliab the firstborn, Aminadab the second, and Shammah the thirdborn, had all followed Saul to the war. David was the youngest of Jesse's kin and would go back and forth from Saul to Jesse to tend the sheep in Bethlehem. While he was doing this for 40 days, Goliath went back and forth every morning and evening to take his stand. Jesse eventually said to David to take some supplies like grain, bread, and cheese to the army unit. He also wanted David to find his brothers, get assurance on how the battle was going, and also he gave him context on who was there, namely Saul and the Philistines. In the morning, David left the sheep in the care of a shepherd, got packed, and set out. When he got there, the army was going out of their positions doing their war cry. As always, the Israelites and Philistines were facing off against each other. David left his belongings with the keeper of supplies, ran to his brothers, and asked them how they were, as Jesse commanded. As he spoke with them, Goliath stepped out of the lines and shouted his usual shtick, which David had happened to hear. Whenever the Israelites saw him, they fled in fear. The Israelites were talking, and some said, "So you know that guy that keeps just yelling some random things at us? You mean Goliath?" "No, the other 9'9" guy standing out there." Yeah, why?" "So I heard that Saul is willing to give some like $20 to anybody who kills him, and also give up his daughter to marry them. And also you won't have to pay tax." "Why are you telling me this?" I don't know, I thought you were gonna kill him." "Brother, how would I kill him? He's 9'9" tall. Can I do it?" "Excuse me. What will be done for the man who kills this Philistine and removes this absolute disgrace of Israel? Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of our living Lord our God?" Guys, who let this child on the battlefield? So, yeah, that's what'll be done for the man who kills Goliath. When Eliab, the firstborn of Jesse from earlier, heard David speaking with the men, he was just seething with anger, as most older siblings are when seeing their younger siblings, and came over asking, "Why are you here? Who brought you here? You are a child. Why did you leave the few sheep in the wilderness? I love how conceited you are and how wicked your heart is. I know you came down only to watch the battle, which we are all going to die in." David then argued back that he's done literally nothing and that there's no reason to be angry over the Xbox that got destroyed 5 years ago. Get over it. And he asked other people the same questions he'd asked before. Some people overheard this and reported this to Saul, who then sent for him. David then started a new conversation with Saul once he got over to him. "Never fear, for I am here. Let no one lose heart on account of this Philistine. Your servant will go and fight him." "David, is it? You are not able to go out against this Philistine and fight him. You are only a young man, and he has been a warrior from his youth. Your servant has been keeping father's sheep. When a lion or bear came and carried off a sheep from the flock, I went after it, struck it, and killed it. Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear. This uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them. Because he has defied the armies of our living Lord our God, the Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine. Well, that's enough to convince me. Go, and the Lord be with you. Saul said, ending the conversation, and then gave David his own tunic, a coat of armor, and a bronze helmet. David fastened his sword over his tunic and walked around because he wasn't used to them. I can't go in these because I am not used to them, David explained as he took them off, his only protection and armor, in this battle with a 9'9" monster. David then took his staff in his hand, took 5 smooth stones from the stream, and put them in a pouch and a bag. Got his sling in his hand and approached Goliath. At the same time, Goliath with the shield bearer in front of him got closer to David. He looked at David and barely saw more than a boy, glowing with health and handsome, which he despised. Goliath angrily cursed,
Am I a dog that you have come at me with sticks? Come here and I'll give your flesh to the birds and the wild animals.
David then replied with something that's a bit too long to be just a simple voice line, but it goes very hard. Anyways, Goliath rushed toward David, and David ran to the battle line to meet him. David ran, reached into his bag, taking out a stone, used his sling, and hit Goliath in the forehead. The stone sank into his forehead, and he fell face down on the ground. He got a critical hit. That's actually crazy. He took Goliath's sword and beheaded him on the spot. When the Philistines saw David was victorious, they turned and ran. The Israelites raided their camp, being victorious in this battle. David was on top of the world as the hero of the day. He had fought and been the one to bring the Israelites to their holy land finally. From here, David soon became king over Israel and Jerusalem and did many things. He led his people, built a temple for the Ark of the Covenant, but unfortunately he was unfit to rule. As he sank further into his years of age, he gradually lost that youthful spur that got him on to be king in the first place. The new kingdom would need some sort of wisdom that would guide them into a better era. One like that of his successor, Solomon. But that's a story for another day. Thank you, and good night.